Eileen McCotter Davies, welcome to the Inspired by Show.
My relationship wasn't working and I did everything to try and make it work. And one day I just sat there, just low, despondent, couldn't see a way out of this relationship. When you've been sacked, when you've lost a business, the inner saboteur kind of goes, I don't want you to be hurt again. I'm going to protect you. The only thing is the saboteur doesn't protect us in a nice way. We are looking for these quick fixes. And there's a lot of, coaching programs saying, I'll get your result in 90 days. Hello, you've had behaviours for 10 years. I've now trained over 100 coaches and it was never in my radar. It was never in my radar to be a coach. I truly believe things find you.
Eileen McCotter Davies, welcome to the Inspired by Show.
Hi, it's good to be here.
Oh, I'm so glad you travelled all the way down to come and join us on the show today. So, Eileen, for those of us that have come across you before, I know you've been quite active in your career and you've done a lot around helping people with overcoming limiting beliefs and self-sabotage and so on. There's a lot I want to ask you, but one of the things that I find fascinating about your story was the start of your story. And I believe when I was doing my research, it started in the fitness industry.
Yes.
Is that right? So tell me a little bit about what attracted you to the fitness industry that made you kind of want to jump in and start your journey there.
Yeah, that's a great question. God, that's a really good question. How did I get into the fitness industry? I was just always energetic, I suppose. I used to go to people's fitness classes. And then one day I just thought, I wonder if I could do that. And I never wanted to be a fitness instructor. I just went to learn the education about bones, muscles, digestive system, all that sort of stuff. And then qualified as a personal trainer, got asked to cover somebody's fitness class. So I covered one class and then I had 10 classes and then I just went into personal training, from there, nutrition, and then into psychology. So
Wow.
they all kind of like merged together. Yeah.
Was it kind of like a ripple effect then? It's like you take on one thing and that then leads to another thing.
Yes.
And that then leads to another thing. Okay,
Yeah.
interesting. And what did you see was the similarities that were guiding you through those different parts of the learning journey for you?
I think the needs of the client.
Needs of the client being like the problems they were facing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So to me, if a client comes to you and they want your help, then for me, I was like, oh, how can I help them? And then when they were coming with stuff that I couldn't help them with, I was like, oh, how can I go and learn that? And then maybe I could help the next client with that. So that's why I went from, personal training, really, and this was a long time ago. I used to basically just kill people in the gym. I was like, I'll just kill you. Burpees, press-ups, I was pretty tough.
Sounds absolutely terrifying.
Were very militant. Yeah, absolutely. And then when I did personal training with people and you get to know people and they share their stuff with you, you're like, wow, they've got like challenges at home or challenges at work. And they were kind of offload their problems. Personal trainers are very much to me like hairdressers. You go to a hairdresser, you get your hair done, but you also feel like you've had a counsellor next to you as well. So it kind of started there, I suppose. And that's where my interest came towards human behaviour, because I was, saying to a person, here's your personal training plan. Off you go. See you next week. And they'd come back and go, I didn't do it. And then I was like, why not? What's wrong with you? That was my way back then. And then I was like, oh, I just need to give them a food program. If I give them a food program, that will sort them all out. And I was like, no, that didn't work. So that was going on in my work life. In my personal life, my relationship wasn't working. And I did everything to try and make it work. And one day I just sat there, just low, despondent, couldn't see a way out of this relationship. And I was like, and then I thought, I'm trying to turn a circle into a square. And then I had this inner voice in my head go, there has to be another way, but I couldn't see the other way. So I remember I walked into a bookshop. I went, right, I'm going to read books. And I walked into whatever bookshop it was at the time, overwhelmed by all these books in this personal development section. I walked back out. I thought, okay, that's not the way for me. And then I was online with this nutrition, health forum. They mentioned this guy in America. So I went, I'm going to fly out to America. So I flew out to America and I was in this room with a group of Americans and Canadians. And this kind of coach said to me, you know, what if you teach people how to treat you? To which I said, I don't need this shit. So I walked out of this room, but I left my keys and my bag in this room. So I had to walk back in, right? I had nowhere to go. So I walked back in, and obviously I love Americans and Canadians. Guess what they did? They all clapped. Yay! I went bright red, and then it made me stay. And then I flew home that day, that week I was there, and I flew home a different person. Something shifted inside of me. However, my behaviors were the same and my habits were the same, but something shifted inside of me, which is stop blaming everybody else. There was part of me that was being a victim, stop being a victim. And part of me learned about a concept called self-sabotage. Now, this is 15 years ago, before self-sabotage was even a word over here in the UK particularly. And then I went, oh, I'm sabotaging myself. Part of me is sabotaging my relationships. So I then kind of learnt these concepts, kept going back to America. But then I brought these concepts to my personal training clients because they were ultimately sabotaging their own health, their body confidence, body respect, etc. And then I got known for someone, oh, if you're stuck, if you're struggling, Eileen's the person that can help you out. So that's kind of how my journey evolved. It was kind of like business and personal at the same time. And I just brought the two worlds together.
Wow. I find that happens a lot though, right? Like normally it's not just one piece that needs fixing. And usually if there's a challenge we've got, like I imagine, I'm not an expert in self-sabotage, but I imagine if you're sabotaging one area, you're probably a great at it, that you're possibly sabotaging in more than one area of your life. Is that how it works?
Sometimes, often my experience over the last 10 years coaching, you know, lots and lots of people has been often we're more dominant at sabotaging one area. So for example, you know, I work with very successful business people and they're amazing at business, but they sabotage their health. Or there could be someone that's great at their health, you know, oh, I do self-care, and they get up at 5 a.m. and they go for the run and they're eating the kale salad, but they sabotage making money. So I often see it's more dominant in one area, but I always see it in 3 areas: health, relationships, and what's the other one? I always do this. Health, relationships, and business, money. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And when you go back to your journey, so you've just found out about this whole self-sabotage thing. What were you sabotaging at that point?
Relationships.
Right.
So and I see it in my clients now, and even in myself, you know, it's kind of like I was turning my back on receiving love. And how many people turn their back on having opportunities? How many people struggle to take just one step? So they go, I want more money. I want a beautiful man or a beautiful girlfriend. I want to live in a nice house. But part of them doesn't want that. And that's the bit that I work with.
Wow. What do you do though if they don't know that? Because it sounds to me like we're saying, yes, I want it, but part of me doesn't want it. If I'm, say, oblivious, how do I know? How do you know? How do we resolve something that we maybe aren't aware of yet?
Well, I think there has to be a level of awareness. And normally when people come to me, like I might be coaching someone, they go, Eileen, you have to coach my husband. He's definitely self-sabotaging himself. And I'm like, great. Is he aware of it? They go, no. I went, well, then no. So there has to be an awareness that you kind of know, I'm going for this goal. I really want this for myself. But every time I take a step forward, it's like I take 2 steps backward. So normally the time people come to me, they're aware of it and they'll go, do you know what? I've tried this marketing course, this marketing course, this marketing course, or I've tried this dating app, or I've tried this diet, this diet, this diet. So they've tried a lot of different things to help themselves. And then I help them with the part of them that is truly, it comes across stubborn or resistant or not willing to help them. That's the part that I help them to unlock inside.
Interesting. And so when you had this experience where you suddenly had this awareness, what helped you see the awareness? Because you said there, you know, business wasn't quite where you wanted it to be, or your career side, you weren't getting the results for your clients because they weren't doing the work, but also your relationship wasn't where I wanted it to be. Where did the awareness come from you? Like, was there like a breakthrough moment, or where did you sort of find that out and have that awareness?
Yeah, I think it came from me just sitting down and go, okay, so what am I doing and what am I not doing? And that's when I went to, do you know what? Then I started to read books. I had great friends, but I just thought I needed something else. So that was the voice in my head. And that's the voice that flew me to America. And I went to like an energy course on meridians, but it was really about blocks, emotional blocks and mindset blocks within yourself. And that's when I realized part of me was being the victim. But once it kind of got, you know, it was suggested, not put, you know, you don't go around to people, you're being a victim, because that's going to make them feel very not nice and defend themselves. But when they said, you know, what if you're being a victim right now? And I was like, well, what's a victim? You know, and then when the definition was given to me, I was like, oh my God, I do walk around the house feeling sorry for myself. I'm never going to find anyone, blah, 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 like that type thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And that's when I was like, wow. So when I came home and I would pop into that behavior, I'd hear another voice going, okay, you're being a victim right now. And that's when you can start doing the work. And that's when, you know, ultimately what I teach people is how to coach themselves. So then when they're in their own behaviors, they can coach themselves out of those behaviors.
Fantastic. It's quite an interesting toolkit and skills to be able to do once you've got the awareness. Now, for you, Eileen, take me back there. So you've come back from America, you've got this newfound awareness. How did you then transition away from the fitness industry into 100% to the real, you know, human psychology, human behavior, and all the incredible things you're doing now?
Again, naturally, organically, I just still, you know, when I did personal training and fitness, I've always given it 100%. I did really think about my clients and my clients' needs and what they wanted and what benefited them, and to certainly meet them where they were. And that just got me more clients and I suppose, you know, some credibility.
Now, I just want to interrupt this episode with something really exciting I want to share with you. Maybe you've been listening to this episode or watching it thinking, Chloë, I've got an inspiring story. I would love to tell my story. Maybe you're sat there like many of our guests who have an inspiring story and know you have knowledge and experience you want to share with the world, but you don't quite know how to use it to help others. Well, I've worked with over 100 authors and co-authors to share their story in books and ultimately use their knowledge and experience that they've picked up on their way to help other people all over the world. And not only have they helped other people, they've gone on to be #1 best-selling authors, speak on stages with well-known celebrities, and feature on podcasts just like this. And maybe there's a part of you that thinks, you know what, Chloë, I would love to be doing that too. Well, let me tell you a secret. It all starts with planning exactly what you want to write or share in your own book. And one thing that I've learned from working with so many different authors is that planning is the key to success. And so if there's a part of you that would like to be able to write and publish your own book or start sharing your story, sharing your message with people that you know that could really benefit from it, then I've got something special for you. I've come up with a planner that I've used to work with all of my authors so far that helps you to get your stories out of your head and onto paper and ultimately into a published book. Now, normally that's only for our paying clients, but I'm going to be making it available as a gift to you as a loyal listener and follower of the Inspired by Show. So if you want to learn how to write your story, learn how to get your book out of your head onto paper and plan your best-selling book, then you can get access to this planner for free. All you got to do, go to www.inspiredbybooks.co.uk/planner, or to make it easier, I've popped the link in the description for you today. So click the link, enter your details, and get access to this writing planner now. I cannot wait to hear what book idea you've come up with. Now, back to the episode.
And then people started referring, oh, Eileen, do you know what? Someone, you know, this person's like you should go over there. And then doors just started to open. And then I joined this marketing course, and that really helped me because I didn't even know what marketing was. And then I learned that, and then I just helped people within that forum. And then I went naturally then more into helping people with sabotage in their career.
Wow.
Yeah.
And when you have this awareness yourself, is it like you're then aware of everything? So you might notice yourself sabotaging, or is it kind of like you've now resolved it and you don't find yourself sabotaging as the expert?
Great question. For me personally, it's impossible to stop a behavior that protects you in some way. So to me, There's a part of me that will always sabotage myself. It's how long, how much, and how often I sabotage myself. So the behavior has lessened. Because if you think about, there's a part in all of us that wants to protect us. Like when you've been sacked, when you've lost a business, when you've, had a broken marriage or, been dumped and your heart is hurt, the inner saboteur kind of goes, I don't want you to be hurt again. I don't want you to be let down. I don't want you to be humiliated again. So I'm going to protect you. The only thing is the saboteur doesn't protect us in a nice way, because it might eat 3,000 chocolate biscuits. And then you go, no, I don't want to eat them. I'm a fat cow now. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Or you'll sabotage yourself by procrastinating. I've got to do a video for my work. I've got to get out there. I'm going to get out there. I'm going to get out there this week. The saboteur goes, oh no. And then you procrastinate and you do other things in your business. Then, show up.
Yeah. The thing I find really frustrating about this industry, if I can be really honest, Eileen, is that you're absolutely right. We can have an awareness, but what I find is often then people feel like we always tell ourselves off. Oh no, that's my imposter syndrome doing that again, or oh, I'm self-sabotaging. And I find that sometimes we can be harder on ourselves when we're aware.
Yes.
Do you notice this with your clients at all?
Yes. And I think because again, we go back to that, telling ourselves off, because as children, it was familiar behavior. We got told off. If it wasn't at home, then it was at school, or it was at a football or a netball club of some kind that we get told off. So we tell ourselves off. Again, that's just a behavior pattern that we can unlearn, and we can replace the telling off kind of parental authority voice to a compassionate godmother angel voice. So I used to sabotage myself with, food and chocolate. I'm not going to eat it, not going to eat it, I'm not going to have any. And then I'd go to a supermarket. I don't know how the chocolate got in my basket. And then I'd go home and I'd put it in my fridge. And then the next day I'd say to my daughter, Tiana, she'll shout up the stairs, did you eat that chocolate? She's like, what chocolate? And I'm like, oh my God, I ate that chocolate. I'm not even aware of it. So, and then I go, I shouldn't have ate that. That's bad. I'm wrong. And I changed that dialogue afterwards to, I ate the chocolate. I wonder what is going on for me. I wonder what might be missing for me at this time. Because if we eat things or we have behaviors like that people don't want to talk about, we all have sabotaging behaviors that include drink, drugs, pornography, eating, gambling, vaping, whatever it could be. Yeah. And we don't want to share them. But all of those behaviors kind of help us to hide and feel bad about ourselves. So if we question them and make us feel worse, like, why did you do that? You're stupid. You're supposed to be healthy. What are people going to think of you? And instead we become compassionate and go, I wonder what that was about. And another voice always turns up with the answer. But, if you look at my career, if you look at my childhood, my childhood was, I was brought up in Coventry. It was like a mini island. My parents were Irish. I wasn't brought up with compassion. I was brought up, what's wrong with you? I'll give you a clip around the ear. What are you crying for? So that's ultimately how I talk to me. And then one day I said, that's got to change.
Wow. And it's knowing those voices, though, and knowing they can change. Because like you've said, a lot of people, we just go with what we've thought from our upbringing, at school, with parents. And I personally think there's a lot of it where we need to unlearn that voice, because that voice has only learnt it from other voices it's heard before.
Yeah.
So it does come to unlearning it and now relearning this new thing.
Yes.
You talk there about food and self-sabotage through food. I can really relate to that. That's definitely something we had a little bonding session before the recording about my love for chocolate.
Yeah, I love eating chocolate.
Yeah, exactly. So the key, I think, here is to know that it's about being curious, what I'm hearing from what you're sharing. It's asking more questions and going, well, why am I feeling the urge to have a whole bar of chocolate and not realise I've done it?
Yes. It's kind of like how to become your own inner coach. However, I've got, two things that really bug me out there in the industry. One is we are looking for these quick fixes. And even there's a lot of, coaching programs or marketing programs or saying, I'll get your result in 90 days. Hello, you've had behaviors for 10 years. So, that's one of my biggest bugbearers is these kind of like seductive promises that we're giving to people. The other one is blame. Quit blaming your parents. Quit blaming your upbringing. And I'm not trying to discredit that some people had a very challenging upbringing, but we have to now go, do you know what? My upbringing wasn't nice. I dislike parts of it, but how can I understand, where my parents were coming from and make that peace within myself so I can redirect my future, if that makes sense. So they're two things that do my tits in on a daily basis.
Yeah, I love that. I love the honesty and the directness, because I totally agree with you, Eileen. And I think you're right, though, because you mentioned victim mode. Blame and victim mode are like hand in hand, right? Because it's the victim that makes us blame.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that you mentioned parents there, because I think a lot of people blame their parents. I've also noticed a lot of people blaming relationships not working. You know? The temptation to say that person should have done that and we'd still be together.
Yes.
Have you seen that often, or have you experienced that yourself, where blame comes in with other relationships as well?
Absolutely. Because the human ego is, I want you to do as I want you to do. I want you to live according to my values. But how can two people that come together have one set of values? And if they do, often one is the leader and the other one's the sheep. And they either have a very codependent relationship, or within 5 years, they split and they hate one another.
Yeah. And that's where the sabotaging comes in, doesn't it?
Yes.
So, we've talked a little bit about sabotaging health side. What experience have you had for any of our listeners or viewers when it comes to sabotaging, say, business? Because I see that so much with my clients.
Yes.
They do really well. I personally experienced this. I did really, really well when I remember being stuck on like 45K a year when I first started my business, and it was around the same amount of money as my old salary. Shock horror. Hit the ceiling I was comfortable with. And I remember the first time I ever, 12 months later, made 250K. And I remember sabotaging that so much because I just didn't know how to receive. I've gone through a lot of therapy through that process now. What have you experienced, that either yourself or with your clients, getting stuck with sabotaging their business and their money?
Yeah, absolutely. Main thing is kind of not showing up and kind of not being lighthearted and playful with the very thing that they had an idea or they've got a passion about in the first place. So, even if I look back to my past, I was sabotaging my relationship. I was flaky in my relationship. The person that I attracted in my relationship was also flaky in my experience. And then I was bringing that energy into my business and being a little bit flaky in business. So again, once I recognized that, I went, no, hold on. I'm okay with sabotaging myself, but what if I can help other people not sabotage themselves? And that's when we have to kind of make agreements with ourselves. But the challenge is the saboteur can be dominant, can be strong. People sabotage then not doing videos, not doing posts, not going to meetings, not getting on a phone call, talking to a client, not trying something new, not investing in themselves. I mean, the list can go on and on and on.
I find that really interesting, though, Eileen. You mentioned there, in your personal experience, in your words, were flaky in your relationship, flaky in your business. Do our saboteurs always show up in the same way across our life, or do we sabotage in different ways?
Yeah, great question. I think for some people, it can be a very similar pattern. And for some people, it can show up in different ways. Yeah. Yeah.
Fantastic. And you mentioned flakiness there. For me, I think I can really relate to the flaky feeling. One thing I noticed in my sabotaging history was around sales.
Yes.
I would make a sale and then the person hadn't paid and I wouldn't want to follow up.
Yes.
Because I didn't want to come across as desperate or salesy. And I still remember the voice in my head saying to me, oh, you can't ask for that. It'll make you look desperate. And all of these things. And I then learned that was my way of sabotaging.
Yes.
So what do you think we can do when it comes to our business so that because a lot of these are costly mistakes that we can't really afford to make?
Yeah. I think the main thing is to, one, for me, inner work is essential, especially if your saboteur is stopping you from doing the next thing. Then inner work is the thing. The challenge is people are looking to, if I do a podcast, that'll be the thing. If I do a newsletter, that'll be the thing. If I do an event, a workshop, that'll be the thing. So I think for me, the inner work is essential. And then after that, then is to work with the saboteur, because the saboteur then will help you as well. and then just meet you where you are, one step at a time, one day at a time, and then work on those past loyal voices. Because a lot of these loyal voices go back to our family and our upbringing, like, who do you think you are? Don't be too big for your boots. What will people think of you? You're not meant to have money. It can go back to that sense of belonging, if that makes sense, and how we fit in.
Yeah.
But again, that's unteachable, and we can teach, you know, the good thing about our brain, my point of view, is you can wake up new parts, and it's like a muscle in the body. You know, if you work a bicep curl, you know, do bicep curls, your bicep gets strong. The muscle that was missing in my brain was my own self-approval. So once I worked on that muscle in my brain, it's strong, it's dominant. And that's what's helped me.
Wow. How did you work on that muscle in your brain around self-approval?
I started first really simply. I remember this coach about 15 years ago saying to me, well, you know, Eileen, how do you praise yourself? And I was like, what the hell is that? Like, you weirdo. I was like, you weirdo. And he was like, well, when do you know, look at what you've done? And I was like, what? And he went, wow, you're a single parent. You've brought up your daughter. You've got 2 businesses. How do you do that? And I just went, that's what you do. And he went, no, that isn't what people do. So I just totally dismissed my own energy, my own effort, my own tenacity. So I started with a praise journal, and I called it myself P&P, which is pillow and praise. So I just started every night when I went to bed, I'm going to praise myself for one thing. And it'd be any one. And it might be, do you know what? I made a meeting today. I spoke to a new client today. I went for a walk today. You know, whatever it could be. And I just started with that. And that muscle in my brain started to grow. And then I started to work on that affirming part of my brain. Because normally that affirming part of our brain we get from masculine energy, which we normally get from our dad or father figures. And many people haven't had that. And that doesn't mean your dad was bad or didn't do it right or did it wrong, because he possibly didn't have it either too, if that makes sense. So for me, that was missing in me, because the Irish way was, my dad was, it's my way or the highway type thing. So I just started to just praise myself. And when you praise yourself, you don't turn around and go, wow, I'm the best thing. You know, because to me, that's arrogance. That's not humbleness. It's, do you know what? I think I did a good job there for me. I'm pleased with myself. It's an internal praise, if that makes sense.
Fascinating. I find this really interesting, because I would say, I feel like I'm having a therapy session as we're sat here, Eileen. It's like, you need to give me your bill at the end of this. For me, that's always been something I struggle with as well. And I'd say I'm probably still on that journey of giving praise, because I'm the same. A lot of people say to me, Chloe, you do things so much faster than everybody else. You know, you were 24, you achieved this, and you've done this in business. And I'm like, yeah, but everybody can do that. I just think a lot of people don't do it. So to me, I'm just like, it's normal, is the language I often find. So I might borrow that pillow and praise and give that a go.
Yeah.
Give that a go.
Because if not, we go around dismissing ourselves. You're dismissing that part of you that had, I mean, look at what you've created here, Chloe. It takes tremendous courage, tremendous tenacity, tremendous patience, and, you know, money and investment and your heart. And you want to say to that part, thank you for helping me. Thank you for allowing me to play in life. And then I find those little parts of our character that want to hold us back. They're like, oh, you're not going to tell me off then. I'll do the next one. Thank you. That makes sense.
It's like that reassurance in ourselves.
Yeah. Because if you rely on reassurance from other people, then you're doomed. Because when they give it you, you might feel great, or you don't believe it. Or if they don't give it you enough, you feel shite.
Yeah, you do. And that's the challenge, I think, as well, because as you mentioned, there's some parts of us that we either haven't had in our lives before, like you mentioned, talking about masculine energy or, you know, dad figures. And I often find as humans, we're kind of like trying to work out the difference of, do I need to be masculine in this space? Do I need to be feminine in this space?
Yeah.
You know, being both female personal brands, we both built businesses.
Yes.
And I often find myself, people say to me, do you not feel like you're too much in your masculine when you do things like that? And can't you be a bit more feminine when you do things like that? And it's interesting you touched on there, where when we are affirming, it's through our masculine.
Yeah.
What's your view about this whole females being masculine, or should we remain feminine? What's your thoughts?
Well, I don't know how you can have one without the other, because if we've, had two parents who had two different roles, and sometimes the roles can be mixed over, right? It could be that, a mother's role energetically is to inspire a child to know self, and a father's role energetically is to acknowledge a child through their journey. So for me, that's like energetically, but those roles could be reversed, where the father could have been more sensitive and listening, nurturing ear, and the mother could have been more the provider and protector. So to me, it's not about gender, but we need both masculine and feminine energy. We need a balance of it. And masculine energy for me is action taking, is, productivity, is, doing. And feminine energy is compassionate energy, is receiving, is being, is intuition, is softness, tenderness. So for me, we need both, right? We need both those traits. And I'm seeing men that lack in, nowadays I'm seeing men that are lacking in their masculine energy, and I'm seeing men lacking in their feminine energy, and same with females too. And for me, I was very masculine, but inside I wasn't. I was a little girl that just wanted to be noticed, wanted to be heard, wanted to be loved, and wanted to be cuddled. But then I was like, no, don't cuddle me. No wonder I was good at boxing. I was a boxing instructor for years. I can still box
if you need to.
Yeah, my husband's 6'3", 6'4", and even now sometimes I'm like, come on, and like, really, you can knock me out with his little finger, but there's still that part of me who's like, no, I'm going to protect myself, right?
Yeah.
But now there's that other part of me that says, hey, Spencer, I'm scared. Part of me's scared right now, and I can be feminine about that. That makes sense.
Yeah, it definitely does. And I think it's nice to know that we can have both parts.
Yes.
We haven't got to be one. I remember when I first became a female speaker and I was being trained to speak on stages, and people were saying to me, you need to stand like this because you can't, that otherwise the way you're standing, I used to stand with my legs crossed.
Yes.
And I was always told you can't stand like
the
that.
Dominant stance.
Yeah, I must have exactly. And I remember thinking, this feels so alien. Now I've learned it so much, anywhere else doesn't. It feels weird. But I think so many times we're trained to like knock certain parts out of us. That's our default.
Yeah.
And you talked about it there where, you've now learned about, what a mother's energy is and a father's energy is. And I think sometimes we can learn these new behaviors, but we still can't forget our upbringing or, we're surrounded by this. How did you find it going then back into your, let's go being a mother first rather than your own family, knowing all this? How did you then go on to be a parent? Because I can imagine in my head, I'd probably overthink everything. I'd be like, am I going to do that? Oh no, I'll damage my child if I do that. What if I do this?
Yeah.
How did you navigate that?
Well, I remember my daughter, she was, 6 or 7 at the time. And I'd gone from doing a lot of, energy work around food. And, she'd come home and before we'd have our dinner, I'd put my hand over the carrots to feel the energy of the carrots. And she'd be like, Mum, what are you doing? And she was like, oh, yeah, carrots, have feelings, because she was 6 and stuff. So I'd always bring this stuff back to her, right? And then when I got more into coaching and I learned about coaching and learned about the roles of a parent, I remember sitting there going, oh, my God, I have messed up my daughter. Like, I've really screwed her over. That in itself was me yet again back in masculine energy, beating myself up and not being compassionate to actually, what if, Eileen, you've done the best that you've done with what you knew at the time as a mother? So I kind of had the two voices that still pop up from time to time. And then I started to share some of this stuff with her and talk to her in a more compassionate way. And I remember one day she came home with her report card, at school, or, the brown envelope with, the parents' evening results in. And she used to give it to me and she used to put it on the stairs and she used to go, Mom, there's my report. And I used to go, and I used to say before I learnt this stuff, oh, what am I going to read now? Chana, why can't you just be quiet? Which is what teachers used to say to me, right? And I'm saying it to her, why can't you just be quiet at school? Why can't you just go? I remember saying to her once, why can't you just do the schoolwork in the, in the classroom and play in the playground? How telling is that? How demoralizing was that? But I didn't know any better. I was coming from a place of care, because I wanted her to do well, right? But once I learned this, this one day she left it on the stairs and I said, T, I'm not going to read it. She went, what? I went, no, it's yours. I'd love you to tell me about it. And she said, what are you on about? I said, well, they're writing about you. What if you read it to me? And what if you let me know if you agree or disagree with the teacher? And we had such a magical, phenomenal moment. And she read it out. She went, like, maths teacher went, I agree with what that teacher says. I personally don't like that teacher, Mum, so I don't listen to a thing that they say. But another teacher, she said, I actually disagree with that, what they're saying. So I was helping her to kind of parent herself. Rather than me tell her she was good 1 minute and bad the next minute. And I think that's what we can do with children as they get older. When children are little, we have to parent them. But when they get to be a teenager, how can we teach them to parent themselves? And what I did there was, no, Tiana, from now on, how can you approve of yourself? And how can you inspire yourself? And I'm going to be here to direct and support.
Wow.
So yeah, it changed from that moment.
That's such a beautiful way of parenting. And I can actually see, I can imagine myself being in her situation, being like, she's then responsible for the results. She's then, not blaming. She's not comparing, but she's taking ownership of them. Mum, I agree.
Yeah.
Don't agree with this. Maybe that's a little bit right. Maybe I could have done a bit better there, but she's taking full ownership.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. I find this fascinating. So, take me on that journey then. So you've now done this work, you've even talked about the energy, you've very much gone down this, if I can, woo-woo path of like very spirituality, energy, not just the scientific pieces, but actually just the more energetic, intuitive pieces.
Yeah, because to me, the feminine side.
And how did you find going down that journey, being the fact that you'd been so in your masculine for a while, as you'd explained?
Well, many years ago, I went on a Paul Chek course, and Paul Chek was massive in the fitness and nutrition industry back in the day, and he was American, and we were in Eastbourne on this course. I was there with like loads of personal trainers, so butch guys, everybody's ripped, all the girls look like fit, we're all personal trainers, very masculine. And he said, I want us to do energy vibration. And I was like, what the hell? I thought we were going to learn about, circumduction, pronation of body parts and stuff. And he sat there and he went, we had to close our eyes and do this work. And I was there looking at the people going, this is mental. Get me out of here. This is crazy shit. But then another voice went, well, I'm here now. And they did this energy circle thing. And he said, who wants to come into the middle to feel energy? Who's got a trauma or whatever? And I went, well, no. He says, but I went, do you know what? I don't believe this. So do you know what? I'm here now. And I stood in the middle and we did this energy thing, and I could just feel energy go through me, behind me and around me. I felt like the Ready Brek advert. You're probably too young for the Ready Brek advert. It's like porridge you used to eat back in the day, and there was like when you'd eat it, it'd give you lots of energy. It'd be like an orange light around you.
Oh, wow.
And I felt there was orange light all around me. So I felt weird. And then I came home, didn't tell anyone. I was like, that was weird. But then I went back again and did level 2. And then just started being more open rather than switched off. And then I became smart at sharing it with people that were curious. Because if you share something that you're interested in with someone who is not open or curious, they will shut you down.
Yeah.
They will shut you down. So that's when I made another decision for myself. No longer share stuff with people who aren't curious.
Which is a really protective thing to do, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because often those voices that come, we already have enough voices in our head, sabotages or whatever, doubts. And then we put those voices inside, they go, maybe they're right. One thing knocks us.
Yes.
And off we go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fantastic. And so you've then gone on this journey. You've then started working with energy. At what point did you go, do you know what? I'm going to say goodbye to my personal fitness and, personal training life and go 100% into this track?
I think I just had a calling and my passion was changing. And I just kind of thought, you know what, I've been in the personal, the fitness side for about 20 years. And I just feel like I'm serving here. So I just want to do more of that. So I kind of just made the decision that, you know what, I want to do more of that. How can it happen? And it was a slow decision. It wasn't a fast one because I was very loyal and I was very good at what I did. And I was known for that. I kind of had like a label, you're a PT, you're a fitness instructor. And then I thought, you know what, I'm just going to embark on this new journey and give it a go. And it was hard. It was really hard at the beginning. There was days when I was supposed to do my marketing and I've always had dogs, and instead I'd just walk the dog. The dog was getting fitter and fitter and I wasn't doing any marketing because I was really getting in my own way. And then I was like, how can I? And I just started with, I'm just going to give, voluntary coaching sessions. This is years ago as well. I'm just going to give people complimentary one-to-ones. I'm going to practice. And I just started to practice, and people referred and more people came back, if that makes sense.
Yeah. It is hard though. And I think you first start out anyway, but for you, it was harder because you were essentially redefining yourself.
Yes.
There was like a label. Everyone knew you as that. And I think a lot of people can relate to that. I've certainly gone on my own journey in business over these years. How did you redefine yourself? And did you find it a struggle to stop people going, I'm not doing the personal training anymore? Yeah, this is me now.
Well, I think some people kind of rip the plaster off, don't they? They said, I'm working with a lady at the moment. She's now a holistic therapist. She was working in a bank and she just saved up money in her banking career and then just said, I'm going to jump 100% into this. She ripped the plaster off. That doesn't really personally match my character. So I kind of do this thing where I built a bridge. So I merged the two worlds together. So for me, I was doing I made a decision one day, I'm no longer doing personal training. I called myself a personal trainer with a twist, and every person I personal trained also got coaching.
Nice.
So I merged the two together, and then eventually I just did less classes, and then made more space. And, it's a bit like a garage. I think I got this from Lucy Johnson once, that, if you have a garage and you empty it out, all of a sudden it's filled with stuff again, crap again. So I did the same. I emptied out the personal training garage and had the space for coaching clients, and they turned up. However, I had to show up. I couldn't just sit at home underneath a tree going, I'm going to manifest everything, because that's feminine. I had to action. I had to do both. That makes sense.
And that's exactly what you meant, though. You have to have both sides.
Yes, both sides.
Eileen, one of the things that I find fascinating about your story is that you've gone on this journey, which is amazing anyway, but then you haven't just stopped with coaching others. You've then started training others to coach using your methodologies.
Yes.
Which, let's be honest, is quite a big jump and it's quite a big impact that you're making. What was going through your mind to make that jump into now using your methodology to train other people to coach in it?
Yeah, well, again, I'd say it always comes from my clients, because a client came to me, she says, Eileen, how can I do what you do? And I said, fly to America. And she's like, I'm not going to be able to do that because I committed to going to America. Like my coaching education took 9 years because I could only go to America once a year, leave my daughter behind, the logistics, the investment. I did 35 hours of dedicated training at a time. So it took me a long time. And I said, just go to America. She went, I can't do that. And she went, well, how can I do what you do? And I went, I don't know. And then I found a governing body, educational place here. I went to them. I then became an accredited coach. So I'm 1% of the accredited coaches in the UK, apparently a fellow level because I've done so many thousands of hours. And then I just broke down all the stuff that I knew and I was sharing into a training module. And then people came to me and they wanted to be coach. So I've now trained over 100 coaches, and it was never in my radar. But it was never in my radar to be a coach. I truly believe things find you.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you mentioned there, you've had lots of mentors. You mentioned Lucy Johnson. You mentioned a few other fitness people. Who has inspired you or guided you on this journey that you never really had a vision for, but you've kind of just gone with the flow through?
It's funny, when I chat to my clients about this, I always think we have, everyone has their own words for them, like earth angels. But, everyone, I think, even has one at school. They have that teacher that just, when I say to someone, tell me the teacher that you really dislike, they go, oh, Mr. So-and-so or Mrs. So-and-so. But who's the teacher that you liked? And when they talk about that teacher, they go, that teacher just took an interest in me. That teacher believed in me. So I had, teachers at school. Our teachers at school said, Eileen, you're never going to amount to anything. You never shut up. You've got too much energy. You can't sit your ass still. And I went, I get paid for talking. I got paid for moving. So, and then I had a guy that I worked with when I worked with young offenders, he was my boss, and he could see in me what I couldn't see in me. And he said, you're going to fly. And he brought me a book called John Livingston Seagull, and his name was Nick Lister. He was a catalyst in my life. And then my coach in America, John, he was a catalyst in my life. You know, my husband now, he sees things in me that I can't see in me. He's another catalyst in my life that just walked in the door now. My husband's just, you know, sent me a text. Eileen, thank you for living and inspiring me.
Wow.
But he inspires me. So I think there's many people that inspire you on your life. I call them like earth angels that just, you know, say something, they plant that little seed, and then you go, oh, maybe I could.
Yeah. I think that's where a lot of us get our visions from in the first place, isn't it? Some people are born probably a bold word, but have this vision that they can see really clearly. They're like, that's what I want to achieve.
Yes.
I never had that.
Yeah.
And I remember when I first started in business thinking I was broken because everybody else has this really clear vision. They want to have this much money in their bank account. They want to have this many clients. They want to have this many team members. And I was like, I just want to enjoy it. And I just want to have a nice lifestyle, and whatever that looks like.
Yes.
Then I'm happy.
Yeah.
For me, it was always about the hours I'm working. I don't want to work ridiculous hours rather than I want to have a, you know, £1 million mansion in London, for example.
Yeah.
It's more a case of this is the life I want.
Yeah.
For you, has your vision got clearer, or are you still feeling like you're just going with the flow and seeing where it ends?
Yep. No, my vision isn't clear. And again, I coach a lot of people who have a clear vision. You know, I want to earn 5 million here, 10 million there. I want to have this, want to have this. And honestly, most of the time their vision doesn't match up to their reality. And because then those expectations don't get met, then they get disheartened, or they get the vision and there's still something missing inside and they have to go on and create the next vision. So for what works for me personally is that doesn't mean I don't set intentions. That doesn't mean I don't have goals. That doesn't mean I don't have aspirations, but I just trust that the vision will appear and it will be how it is. So, you know, I never had a vision to be a coach. Well, I never had a vision to teach personal training. You know, I never had a vision to work with young offenders. That was my first job. Like, I never had that vision. So I just have trust. And if I look at people who have exceptional businesses, they too don't have a 5-year or 10-year vision. They just are really good at looking after what's in front of them now and thinking about what's ahead a little bit.
Yeah, because then you can also use your intuition to
Absolutely.
guide yourself in the middle. And then when things go wrong, which they will,
Yeah.
you know, if there's a secret to them not
Yeah.
going wrong, then I'm up for
Yeah.
it. But traditionally, things go wrong. And if we've got such a structured vision, we've got no wiggle room for
No.
it. It's then the knock-on effect of that didn't work.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, I'm so far off
Yeah.
the trajectory I wanted to be. Hence pressure,
Yeah.
blame, victim.
Yeah.
And then we go back through the
Too
cycle.
many unmet expectations. Absolutely.
Yeah. Wow. And Eileen, you mentioned, obviously, we've talked about you coaching other coaches. You've mentioned there about how you didn't really have a vision for coaching. You've been in the industry for a while now. What are your beliefs or opinions on the coaching industry at the moment? Because there's so many like buzzwords and pop-up coaches everywhere.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on where we're going as a coaching industry?
I think, you know, it's funny, Paul Check, who I do believe is a big visionary, he said absolutely years ago, we're going to move away from as much from, you know, doctors, and we're going to personal training, and we're going to go into coaching because people need, you know, cheerleaders, support, some, you know, with someone they can offload without, you know, having to take a tablet. And I'm not saying there's this, you know, a place for that, the medical, there is a place for the like medical stuff, but there's also a place for coaching. The challenge I dislike is the seductive coaching that is out there. That gets on my tits. Like, I'm going to change you. I'm going to do this for you. Nope. It is, I am going to be there to help you to help yourself. So I think for me, I would love if coaching was more moderated. You know, all of my coaches are certified, and then some of those go to be accredited coaches. They're all insured. They haven't just done a course in a weekend, and I'm not minimizing courses in weekends. They have their place, but I think it should be like going to university. You need to do your hours. You need to do your practical hours. You need to excel, and you need to be honest and know, actually, I don't have the skill set for this client, and put your hands up to that. I need to refer this client on. I'm very clear on who I won't coach, probably more clear on that on who I will coach.
Yeah. But that's part of the qualification and experience, doesn't
absolutely.
it? I was one of the few who I started my coaching business before I actually had any accreditation or any qualification at all. And I remember having these conversations with people, and there was one particular person who had a mental illness at the same time. And that was the first red flag. I was like, this is not for me.
Yes.
It's not my remit. And that's when I then went and got qualifications.
Yes.
And I agree with you. I think there's so much risk as well. You know, if someone comes to you and is really expecting, again, you to fix them or heal them, which is a lot of people's beliefs.
Yeah.
Most people who seek out coaches don't realize that it's something within themselves they need to fix. But it's almost like dangerous that we can have that effect on someone. You know, people are coming to us vulnerably, they take the armor off. And I think if people aren't qualified properly, it can be really damaging.
Yeah, and I think we just need some protection. The client needs protection. And that's certainly, I don't want to discredit that there are phenomenal coaches out there, probably not certified, not accredited, and have phenomenal experience. However, I just feel that if we are certified, insured, accredited, we have some sort of protection. And you have some sort of guidelines. Like, you wouldn't go to a dentist and the dentist said, hey, you know, I do dentistry because I had a dentist. That's what's happening in the coaching world. Oh, I you know, I had a coach and I like that. So I now want to be a coach, you know, and I have many coaches that come to me and they have a certificate, but it's the practical hours and the belief and the confidence they need. And I say, guys, you've got to practice, practice. And then your confidence and your belief will grow. And people see it, people know it, people come to you and they then, you know, the proof is in the pudding, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. What I've seen as well is people with, you know, questionnaires that they have to, you know, here are my 20 questions that I will ask you as a coach. And I'm not saying that's wrong. I think there's a way of asking questions, you know, all of the accreditations. But sometimes I think you need to go where the client needs to go as well. Have your questions in your heads, but not checklist, here's this, like almost interviewing, like we're doing here. You know, there's no questions written
anywhere. Too much masculine energy in my experience. It's structured, high structure. But again, that's because someone maybe hasn't practiced enough. So they're worried, they're concerned, they're genuinely scared. Like, I don't want to get it wrong. I want to get it right. I want to say the right thing. What question do I say after the next question? You know, rather than, for me, holistic coaching is you give it back to the client. So what would be a great question for you right now? Where would you like to go now? What do you think you need in this moment? So you give it back to the clients, because the client, for me, has their own answers when we hold the space for them to connect to their own inner wisdom.
Yeah, I love that. And that also stops any codependency as well, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Because I've also seen that in the industry where people, let's play, you know, I'm a brand new coach. I need the clients, so I don't want that person to finish working with me.
Yeah.
There's almost like that conflict of, I want them to get better, but I don't want them to get so better that they don't need to pay me. That's not what we want, right? No. We want people to be well enough that they don't need the coaching anymore. Or go, do you know what? I'm going to have monthly coaching sessions with you just to keep me on track, sustain, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. I've got clients been with me 4, 5, 6 years and I do, you know, 5 live events and they just come to plug back in. And they go, I love to just plug back in, because in life they get back in their head again with, you know, pressure, targets, outcomes, systems, etc. And they just get a weekend to connect back to their heart again. That gives them a big boost of energy and off they go back out again.
Oh, I feel like I could talk to you about this for ages. It's such a fascinating subject. Now, Eileen, you talked so much about your own past. You've talked about what you're doing now, talked about live events. What's next for Eileen McCotter Davies?
Well, because I've been doing a coaching training business for some time, but however, never officially launched it, I'm now next week taking myself to Ireland to hide away and to work on website copy, which part of me doesn't like. Hence, I'm hiding away to get it done. Clear diary. And I'm launching my holistic coaching school. So, I'm now going to have a holistic coaching school, and hopefully with different levels of quality coaching. So it doesn't have to be an astronomical price for people to be a certified and a quality coach, and there can be different levels to meet them where they are. So I want to go into that because I just feel that the more that I be a trainer and an educator in this field, then I can, you know, people can share this and the ripple effect is huge, and that we can make coaching affordable for all. So some people might want to do high ticket coaching, but some people might not. And it can be in all levels of the community, in all levels of society, rather than, you know, if you've got a coach, it's a luxury. Why can't everyone have a cheerleader?
Yeah. Oh, it's such a fantastic way to wrap up this interview. I think it's so important, isn't it? Because we don't always have to be the people that have the money get the coaching. Because actually, it might actually be opposite way around. Who knows?
Yeah.
Your budget doesn't necessarily define your problems
Yeah.
or your challenges or what assets and resources you can use to fix them.
Like my hairdresser, for example, I've never paid to get my hair done in 15 years, and she's never paid for a coaching session. We just swap.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
You're like, this is your skills, this is my skills. Let's see how we can make it happen.
Yeah, she does my hair and she goes, I work on her head.
You're going to get loads of people reaching out to you now going, oh my God, I can do your hair if you
Can you do that?
Be like, what other treatments do you want?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, fantastic. Well, Eileen, it's been great talking to you. And thank you for being so inspiring here. Obviously, as you know, the reason you're sat here is actually from my really close friend and business partner, Shim Ravalia, who recommended you from her episode on the show. So you probably already know what's coming. We have a tradition on the show where you can recommend someone that you believe has an inspiring story that you think we should have on the show next. Who have you got in mind?
Oh, wow. Wow, what a question. I could recommend hundreds. I'd love to recommend each and every one of my clients, because for me, they are my source of inspiration with how they show up with their courage and their tenacity. However, with not having permission to say their names, probably won't do that. So probably other people I can think of who'd be okay with me saying their name. One would be my husband, Spencer. He is, built and created a phenomenal business, with 3 of the directors, and how they work together and what they've created has been, phenomenal in the construction industry. And the other one would be, she was a client years ago, and then became a client of mine. And I became a client of hers. She was a hairdresser, would be my good friend Paz. Again, too inspirational. She's gone from, working in a hairdresser, bringing up 2 beautiful children, to now internationally flying all around the world, being an educator in hair and hair products. And to me, she's a coach within herself, and she's a true inspiration. So yeah, probably Paz.
Oh, fantastic. Well, thank you so much. We'll have two for one. I love it. Well, thank you so much, Eileen. We'll most definitely be reaching out to both your husband and to Paz and see if we can get them on the show.
That's great. Thank you. And thank you, Chloe, for your inspiration.
No problem. Thank you for being here. Well, guys, what an episode that has been. I know there were so many golden nuggets shared on there. If you are watching on our YouTube channel, do make sure that you share in the comments below. What was the most inspirational part of Eileen's message that you heard? Maybe you're a coach right now and you're thinking, oh my gosh, I would love to learn and upskill. Or maybe you're sat there going, I feel like I'm sabotaging myself too, and I would love to be able to remove those sabotages, or at least manage them and be aware of them. Let us know in the comments, and let us know what you found the most inspirational part of this episode. Also, if you are watching on YouTube, or you are subscribed on watching or listening on any of our podcast platforms, if you haven't already subscribed to the show and followed the show, make sure you follow so you don't miss our most inspiring episodes that are coming up soon. I'll see you next week.